Hi, and welcome to Habits for Humans, the podcast that explores what makes people tick and how to program this brain of ours, this body of ours. And today we're going to talk about programming our emotions as well, which is kind of cool. We're going to program them to do what we want them to do. Isn't that a novel thought? We're going to explore why we can sometimes and in some areas of our lives achieve extraordinary accomplishments, and in other areas we are addicted to Cheetos and sleep 10 hours a day. If we want to be healthy and happy, what is the secret to programming our brain to maximizing our potential? I'm your host, Kim Flynn, and today we're going to talk to Becky Moller and Nesha Woodhouse. Both Becky and Nesha have spent years of their lives devoting themselves to healing their own past traumas. Both women experienced eating disorders in their younger years and struggled with body trauma. And they have given me a statement that I absolutely love. They said, your body will give you wisdom you can't access in any other way. I've been looking forward to this podcast ever since talking to them a bit ago and wanting to hear, how do you access this wisdom? Actually, Becky and Nesha, I've been paying attention ever since I talked to you about what my body is trying to tell me. And I got to tell you, it's sending out signals and I don't know how to read them. So I'm excited to hear from you guys on how to read what your body is trying to tell you, because I'm not speaking that language yet. So I would love to hear and explore that with them. We have a giveaway for our listeners at the end from both Becky and Nesha, and also from our sponsor, Card Salad. So if you like free stuff, stay tuned until the end. A word from our sponsor, Habits for Humans, is brought to you by Card Salad. It's a health and wellness company that teaches you how to program your brain using systems and habits. So you know how everyone wants to eat healthy, but meal planning is a pain in the rear. It is. It takes hours a week, and I know this because I do it every week for my company. It's called Card Salad. We do done-for-you meal planning. So here's your meal planning board behind me, recipes. You hang it on your fridge. Your kids always know what to eat, and you don't go to the freezer for quick, mac and cheese, frozen pizza, and chicken nuggets, because your meal planning is all done for you. It comes with shopping lists for you every week, as well as habit cards to slowly build those habits and systematize your eating. So stay tuned to the end of this podcast. We have a free 1 week of content for you, with 1 week of recipes, 1 week of shopping lists, your meal planning done for you for a week. So stay tuned to the end of this podcast and we'll give that to you. So let's introduce Becky and Nesha. Becky Moller and Nesha Woodhouse own Lifehouse Body and Soul, a wellness center that offers mindfulness, meditation, fitness, and community. Becky has over 15 years experience teaching group exercise and mindful meditation. As former executive director of SA Lifeline Foundation, she also has years of experience in 12-step recovery. Really interesting. Writing recovery materials, developing programs and curriculums, and facilitating groups. Nesha owns and operates Lifehouse Performing Arts Academy, one of the largest performing arts studios in Utah. We're so excited to have you guys here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. So let's jump in here. Talk to me about, I don't want to go too deeply into the trauma that you experienced, but if you wouldn't mind touching on that, telling us about the body trauma that you've experienced, and then how you listen to your body. So let's jump in there. So Becky, if you want to start, and then Nesha after.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, and the people in Wisconsin, my family, all the people around me, if they enjoy life and just are a little bit bigger. And I grew up feeling like that was normal. That was probably the way I was going to live my life. And when I was about 18, I was perfectionist in a lot of areas of my life. And suddenly that perfectionism shifted over to that body image. And I kind of just stopped eating and became really focused on my body shape and my weight. And I saw really clearly how, as my size diminished, my value escalated socially in a lot of ways. And so for the next about 18 years of my life, I lost my period because I was too thin. And then for the next about 18 years of my life, I didn't have a period, and I struggled with infertility then, obviously, and just kind of carried the weight of this body anxiety and trauma around my body. But I also felt that it was manageable, and I also felt that it was somewhat normal. And then I experienced another trauma totally out of left field, and that was betrayal trauma. And that just absolutely kind of took me down. When you talk about rock bottom, and that was a rock bottom, it was a place where I was definitely in over my ability to cope, or the tools that I had used the rest of my life to scrap through and suck it up, or however you might say it, just were not working. And
Okay, so I have to stop you there for a second. This is such good
yes,
stuff. You said like 5 things that I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. So you talked about, as my size diminished, my social value increased. I think that's a reality that oftentimes me and other people who talk a lot about body positivity and whole health kind of gloss over. And that is, there really is social value in our culture to being really thin. And it's interesting that that you just admit that and say, yes, my social value went up. So I want you to talk more about that. Let's actually start there. Talk to me more about that first.
yeah. Well, I think my whole early life, I really put my value in other aspects of my personality, because I didn't feel that my appearance was super valuable. I didn't see myself as attractive, or wasn't receiving that kind of attention. So I became really academic and really smart and a really high achiever. And it's interesting that when I shifted that focus and suddenly I was getting attention as being attractive, everything else I had to say suddenly mattered more. Suddenly people listened more to what I had to say. And I think that puts us in an interesting position as women, because we want to have power because of who we are. And yet we have to grapple with the reality that in the world we're living in, somehow our appearance does affect the way the way we're received, and the way people respect us. It just is something that we have to kind of figure out how to grapple with that, you know?
It's a complex topic. We want women to have power, right? We want us to be able to do whatever we want to do. But the culture we live in right now says you will have more power, more value if you look like society's standards. It's dicey. It's a dicey topic. I'm glad you brought that up and just said it is a conundrum here.
Yeah.
So thanks for bringing that up. Another topic that just hit home for me. The first topic hit home for me too. I get it, and I live that, and I feel that, and I see influencers online saying, why do I get 10 times the likes when I put makeup on versus when I don't? You know, like, why is that so tied for women? Why does our power have to come through beauty, through society's standards of beauty, right? So you and me both, drives me crazy. Okay, the next one is body anxiety. You thought it was normal and it was manageable. I think that's where 99% of the population lives. We have body anxiety. We know that we don't love feeling this uncomfortableness, but it's manageable. Will you talk to me more about that? And I promise we will get to you. We will get to both of you, but this is such good stuff.
Nesha has great stuff too. Yeah, I would say I thought that was normal. I thought my life was kind of this dance, especially as I was in these childbearing years and I wanted to have a family, this dance of like gaining a little bit of weight so I could get pregnant, and then nursing and restricting calories, and seeing how skinny I could get back down before I had to kind of do the whole thing over again. And I felt that was normal, and I felt that I was managing that pretty well. And this is kind of, I want to put this in there because I think it also speaks to the last topic. When I hit this wall of betrayal trauma, and my husband had betrayed me, that happened at a time when my weight was like the lowest it had been in my married life. And I had to hit a point that trauma, as opposed to the body trauma, was not manageable for me. I could not just push through the day and just kind of be stressed or anxious or whatever. It was like I was flat on the floor and I could not function. And that was a gift in my life. because it pushed me to the place where I had to recognize there had to be another way to live. And it actually took me to the place where I could get to the root of those beliefs and say, obviously there was something in me that thought I was protecting myself somehow from abandonment, rejection, that I was somehow securing love by being thin. And that was what was driving this behavior and this anxiety and this drive. And clearly it didn't work. So as I hit that place and could see very clearly the fruitlessness of all those efforts, that betrayal trauma, that rock bottom is what created the space and the possibility for me to find another way to live that
to
truly
actually heal, Band-aid it, right? So
yes,
the eating disorders were all Band-aids trying to prove your value. And so finally you had this blowout in your life where you couldn't just manage it through a Band-aid. You had to heal. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. Okay. Nesha, I want to hear from you. Becky, thank you so much. That was, you made me cry, maybe. I teared up a little bit. That powerful story. Go ahead, Nesha. I want to hear from you.
Yeah. So the first time that I experienced body trauma was when I was 4 years old. I came home from a dance class and was wearing a little leotard, and I remember vividly coming down the stairs to my family room, and my sister, who was like 12 or 13, was a junior high cheerleader, and she was having practice in our family room. And so some of her cheerleading friends were over, and I was just skipping around the room, just a typical little kid where there's no like self-objectification at that point. I was just in my body. And one of my sister's friends looked at me, and she looked at my sister, and she just, with all of it, just felt like this disdain. Like she said, she has a belly. And it was this like, as a little child, I just remember, just feeling flushed and all of this. I think it was the first time that I felt shame. And, I just had the little preschooler pooch, just that little belly, but it felt like something is wrong with me. And I remember running upstairs and hiding behind my bed and just crying alone in my room. And I never told anyone. It felt so, so incredibly shameful. And growing up, like I was not like through grade school and stuff. I wasn't super thin, I was just a little more round, and I had another experience. I had multiple like those little messages that get sent to you that just, create shame around what you look like. And I remember just in 5th grade, I was best friends with this boy that I danced with, and we were super, super close. And I had a dear friend who was a year older than me, and she was tall and thin and beautiful. And, she liked this boy, and this boy liked me. And I remember she started to say things to me like, I don't know why he likes you, because like you're kind of chubby and I'm so pretty, and I was just like, yeah, that is weird that he likes me, that he is interested, that he has that we have this connection when you were so much prettier. And the sad thing is it kind of ruined my relationship. Like I started like, she started having me like write him notes, like you should like this other girl because she's so pretty. And it kind of destroyed just this like innocent, special friendship, that I had with this kid. And because I felt like I wasn't worthy, and I could go on and on. I feel like this has just been a journey, just a little part of my life, and kind of like Becky's saying, it served a purpose. And so when I was about 13, I kind of feel like trauma is any time where our sense of safety, our sense of mattering, our sense that we are worthy of love, worthy of belonging is threatened in some way. And so I kept getting these messages because we all long to be loved and desired, and like we matter, and so these little shameful messages, that shame that I had, I just subconsciously, it was like the answer to secure a feeling of that I'm worthy of love and I'm worthy of attraction and desirability. All of that, it has to do with my size. And so just similar, but I was about 13. I just started trying to really control my eating, and by the time I was in high school, had a pretty significant eating disorder, and I had a very similar experience as Becky. I remember feeling all of this internal anger because I was living in a state of total self-betrayal where I was like starving myself and causing damage to myself, both like emotionally, mentally, and physically. But I was being so incredibly validated because now no one questioned if a boy liked me. It was like, because I fit the picture of what it, like, well, of course he liked you because of what you look like, and so for a long time, that just, my size, I would, a topic that we discuss in our program is what's at your center. So for a long time, it's like my body was just at my center because that was a way that I could control whether or not I was valued and loved and respected. And
okay, so I have to stop you because, again, such good stuff. First of all, the principle of I just think of like women, whether we're super thin and fighting body image by an eating disorder, whether we're overweight and fighting body image just because we're getting lots of negative feedback from people. It's all the same, right? We're all, as women, struggling, and men too, struggling with our culture that values thin above everything. I also love that you said you were so angry because you were betraying yourself, you were starving yourself, and when you were terrible to yourself, you were validated. That's a big broken piece in our culture. When we as women or men starve ourselves and are terrible to ourselves, we are treated better. Oh, that's painful. That's painful. So go back to what is your center? I'm interested in that.
You can.
All right. Like, okay. So we talk about finding our center as part of our philosophy in our program. It's kind of the heart of what we do. And it's coming to understand through mindfulness, this practice of being able to observe what are my thoughts, what are my feelings, and just notice. That in itself is an art, okay, is a practice that because we typically will judge ourselves really quickly. And as soon as we start to judge ourselves, then we can't really see clearly where we're at. So we have to learn how to first just see what's happening. And we say from a space of loving awareness, just there's space for this, there's room for this. And when we observe, we can start to see what is at the center. What is kind of like, if you picture, a hurricane or something, that center of that hurricane, everything's revolving around something. And typically, whatever that thing is going to create a whole weather system inside of us mentally and emotionally. So if another person is at my center, like let's say my spouse is at my center, then all my thoughts are swirling around him, what he's thinking of me, what's his perception of me, I might obsess about his behaviors, and my emotions will go up and down like a roller coaster based on how he's interacting with me, or if I feel validated by him or whatever. When you put something like your weight at your center, then your thoughts are always circling around, what am I eating next? This kind of all this obsession's happening, and your emotions are going up and down like a roller coaster. It's a two-sided thing. When the scale goes down or the jeans zip up, I'm really high up here, but then when that doesn't happen, then I'm really low. But all of this is swirling around what we're putting at our center. Does that make sense?
That so much. Yep, I love that so much. I have to share personal stuff here. So for many years, I've been married for 23 years, and what you said is exactly right. For many years, I put my spouse as the center of my life, and it's easy in our culture to say, oh, I should, like, that's a value, right? Putting my family in the center of my life is a value. But you're exactly right. When I am so tied to, okay, if he's happy, then I'm happy. If he's down, then I'm down. We had to go through kind of like a break in our relationship and come back together in a healthier way, because that's not sustainable over time. Same thing with your body. You can't have that obsession always at the center. So I have to, I was thinking about it today. So I'm a gym girl. I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I go to this gym that's right next to a college. I'm not kidding, you guys. I look around the gym. I go to the free weight section. First of all, one of the only women. And then I'm the only person over 25, guaranteed. And they're all like rock hard, beautiful bodies that are 22-year-old bodies, right, around me. And I'm 45, and I'm sitting there with them. And it's so easy to get sucked into this mentality of my body is a goal. My body has to look a certain way, and I have to compete. I think competing is the really, when we start to get negative. If you think about bodybuilding, you start to get into like, what's the next step? It's like a journey, right? What's the next step? Oh, I start competing for how good I look. And so just this morning, I was like, you know what? I can't do that anymore. I need to put myself in a place where I can work out and exercise in a place that's really good for me, for my inside as well as my outside. So will you guys talk to us about what you do? I know you have a program. Will you talk to us about your program and what you do to help people like me?
Yeah, I think so this program, my rock bottom place happened probably 8 or 9 years ago. I feel like I lived my whole life. There were 2 things that were usually at my center. One was my body. The other was what I achieved and what I accomplished. And so I was always over functioning, and I mean, all through my life, just over functioning through achievement and accomplishing more, and figuring out like, and I was an absolute just people pleaser, over accommodator. And I hit this point about 9 years ago where I was literally just killing myself in every aspect of my life, and it felt like no one was happy with me, and felt like I was failing. And same thing, that rock bottom place was so powerful for me, because I had the same experience where I'm like, I am not operating in a way that this is not good. Everything that I thought was goodness, like being thin, like achieving, like I recognized that my relationship to it was so off, and I needed a new way to operate. And it sent me on this journey. And I started to think about, is there a program out there that can be about the body, that can provide, some type of like wellness and things, but it's where everything is coming from the inside out. Because I recognized in my life, I always felt like a performer. It was never like me experiencing the world through my body. It was, how does it look like from the outside, and what am I accomplishing, and how am I perceived? And that I was not present to my own inner world and to my own body and my own system. And as I looked around, I'm like, everything is tied to an outcome. Everything is tied to a weight. And I'm like, there has to be something where it's about the relationship you have with yourself and with your body. And then Becky and I met. We've known each other for a long time, but we met about 3 years ago. She brought over a book about trauma, and we started developing this connection. And just her being a fitness coach, we started talking, and that's where this program came from.
So Becky and Nesha, we can't even scratch the surface of what I wanted to talk about. I still want to talk about how to listen to your body. And everything you said has just been so juicy. I want to get more into what's at your center. I love the principle of over functioning in order to, again, prove our value. That's what we've been talking about this whole time. And this phrase that a friend of mine used to use comes to mind, and that is, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. It's not that you're an achiever or have a great marriage or look amazing or like to work out. It's not those that are problems. It's the why we're doing those things that are problems. And I really want to get into more of that. So we're going to make this a second podcast. And so we're going to wrap this one up. And if you want to listen in to the second podcast, we'll finish with Becky and Nesha here. But really quickly, as we wrap this podcast up here, and Tina, edit that out too. So really quickly, as we wrap things up, a reminder that the goal of this podcast is to program your brain to start instilling systems and habits into your daily life. And just like Becky and Nesha says, it has to come from this beautiful place. We don't want to instill systems and habits that come from a broken place, trying to prove our worth, trying to earn our worth. It's not about what you know, it's about what you do. And starting one very small step at a time. So the giveaway from our sponsor, Card Salad, you go to, if you're listening to this in a podcast format, go to habitsforhumans.com, find Becky and Nesha's podcast, and sign up for a free 7-day Eat Real Foods challenge. This is a week of meal planning done for you. So recipes, shopping list, and habit cards to get you started on your very gentle journey to wellness. Our next episode, we're going to continue with Becky and Nesha, and we're going to talk about how to listen to this body of ours. And if we don't put our spouse and we don't put our kids and we don't put our body and we don't put our accomplishments in the center of our life, what actually does belong in the center of our life? Our giveaway from Becky and Nesha, we have a discount code to their course or their daily practice. They're going to talk more about that in the next podcast. But they've got the discount code, and that's in the show notes below on habitsforhumans.com. So thank you for joining us, Becky and Nesha, and we're going to have you come one more time here in just a second. Thanks to our listeners. This is Habits for Humans, the podcast that teaches you how to program your brain to maximize your potential. And a reminder that you can get that free week of recipes done for you, meal planning done for you at habitsforhumans.com, and start your 7-day Eat Real Food challenge. Thank you in advance, everyone, for giving us a positive review, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.